Thank you so much, Marta. I wish I could be there with you in person, but thank you for having me virtually. So I'd love to share a few slides with you. I'm going to share my screen now. My name is Melissa Arronte, and I'm from Medallia. We're a signal to action platform. And today what I want to talk to you about is a new model for employee experience that we call continuous response. So first, what we'd really like to talk about is the ability to focus on employees. This is such an important aspect of running our business and is so directly connected with the bottom line. But we do often have something that is an obstacle for us. And what that is really is the tension between the belief that the engagement survey is what's needed, but actually this need for more frequent feedback to really connect and engage with our employees. So it's, as you know, it's more important than ever to be able to listen to our employees ongoing so that we're able to use that information to remove obstacles, to predict outcomes, and to take continuous action to improve the employee experience. But to be able to do this, we really need to evolve employee understanding tools to create this continuous response model. And that's what I want to describe to you today. I'd love to take a few minutes to explain to you what benefits we do get from the engagement survey, what is a continuous response model, some practical ideas of how it can be implemented, some customer stories of how some customers have implemented continuous response, and then finally talking about some of the common obstacles that we hear and how to overcome them. So first, addressing the engagement survey. A lot of people say they don't want to let go of the engagement survey, and you don't have to. It's a great foundation for a robust continuous response program. We get some really rich feedback that's often used with the C-suite and the board of directors to enable strategic decision-making and to provide a comparison between other companies and how they're performing on employee engagement. There are some great ways we can maximize the insights from an engagement survey by actually reducing the number of questions and then using the unstructured data, the comments that employees leave, to really mine that data with text analytics and AI to understand what employees really want to tell us, in addition to what we want to ask employees about. But there is a better way than just simply improving the engagement survey, though improving the engagement survey is definitely the first step. We can complement the engagement survey. And the reasons we want to do this is our research shows that actually the best information doesn't come from a number of questions that we give to employees that they answer on a 1 to 5 agreement scale. Our best insights really come from those open-ended comments when employees have the freedom to really tell us what's top of mind for them, what makes it hard for them to get their job done, and their great ideas about how things can be better for themselves and for their customers. We really can use the power of advanced text analytics and AI, as I've mentioned. This is such a powerful tool in understanding the employee experience. And it's not just analyzing employee comments. We can analyze any kind of unstructured data. If you can imagine bringing in social media comments from employees to be able to analyze, we can analyze employees' performance reviews, the objectives that are set for them. We can even bring in the chat transcripts or the calls that employees make to a call center when they've already given permission for the call to be recorded and they're describing the problems they're encountering with systems or processes. One suggestion is to implement an always-on micropulse, and that's part of what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's the ability to allow employees to provide feedback and ideas in the flow of work, quickly and easily. Tell us what's top of mind, tell us what's in their way, quickly respond by answering a single question and then just telling us their idea or their feedback. And then really shifting the emphasis away from analyzing many structured items. By that, I mean analyzing so many questions. We try so hard in the engagement survey to write so many questions to guess what's on employees' mind. I'd like to shift that idea and think about letting employees have the freedom to say what they want to say and use analysis on the back end to figure it out rather than trying to structure questions on the front end. Let's take a look at this. So at Medallia, what we think about when we think of employee experience is these simple words here: activating the untapped power of your people to improve every area of your business. What we mean by this is employees come to work every day to make a difference, to really make a difference in the lives of other people. That might be through improving an accounting process. It might be through selling directly to a customer or servicing a customer or creating new software. But they came here to have an impact, to make a difference. And when they go to get their work done, unintentionally, there are obstacles in their way. Things like systems, processes, and guidelines that make it hard for them to do their work. Medallia is all about understanding where are these obstacles? How can we remove them to better enable employees to make a difference, to have an impact, to really bring meaning to their jobs? And that's what I want to talk to you about with continuous response. So when we say continuous response, it's an idea about really understanding what employees have to say. So it's combining employee feedback through surveys as well as signals. I've already given a few hints about what signals are, but let me tell you a little more. Signals is information that we can bring in to understand more about the employee experience before we ever have to send them a survey. A simple example of this is, who is the employee's manager? Is that person a high performer or a low performer? What kind of team does this employee work on? Is it a team with higher than average employee relations problems or a team with higher than average recognition awards? I think you can see with just those simple examples that we really start to get a better understanding of the kind of experience this employee is having before we've ever sent them a survey. So we bring feedback and signals together to create some information. And we create that in what we call these two views, the company view and the employee view. I'm just going to take a couple minutes to review this with you. So the company view is just what we've talked about, that annual engagement survey. It could also be a quarterly or monthly pulse with a number of survey questions in it. It could be ad hoc surveys. It can be even the life cycle journey moments that are so typical, like onboarding and training. And as we've described, there can be a wealth of information in the company view, but it is highly structured questions that we're sending to employees where we're guessing at what's important to them. And this really only covers a small subset of the universe of things that employees could be telling us about, which is why we really advocate complementing the company view with the employee view. And there's two areas of the employee view. The first we call personal moments. So personal moments are surveys that can be triggered at times of significant change for an employee. Let me give you an example. So an employee gets a new manager, right? So the employee is sitting in their job, doing their work, and suddenly their whole world changes, right? They have a new manager who has new priorities, maybe has a new strategy, might even have a whole new perspective of this employee's individual performance. So everything has changed. What a stressful time for an employee. This can affect their productivity, affect their risk of turnover. What a great opportunity to reach out to the employee, connect and engage with them, understand how they're doing at this critical moment, and getting feedback that can help them at this moment, or help us shape the transition to a new manager for future employees going through this. You could also think of something like when an employee encounters a time-consuming workaround. Imagine that we're able to look at systems and use some analytics to understand, where do employees spend a lot of time? Where do we see employees doing repeated tasks? Where do we see employees coming in and going out really frequently? These can be times potentially of frustration or where they're having to do a workaround. We can simply put a button in those systems that allows the employee to click it and say, this is difficult for me, or this could be better if, or I'm having to do so many extra things to make this transaction work for my customer. Here are some ways I think we could make it better. What a great opportunity to help make their work meaningful and empower them to provide feedback and ideas to make things better. The last area of the employee view we call organic feedback or organic intelligence. This is really where we free up employees to give us ideas and feedback right in the flow of their work. If you can imagine an employee, let's say at a bank, completing a transaction with a customer, now they're dropped back into their intranet, into their portal. They're able to click a button, answer a question, and then freeform, either using video, their voice, or typing in the text, can tell us their idea on how this transaction with the customer could have been made easier for both the employee and the customer, or their feedback about how something is difficult to do, or confusing, or problematic in some way. Employees have such great insight into both the customer and the employee experience, and we want to be able to give them the ability to provide those feedback and ideas just as they're doing work. No employee should have to wait a month or a quarter or a year for a survey to be emailed to them, asking them a number of questions, and then finally having the opportunity to share their idea. If you think about some really famous employee ideas that have happened in the past, many of you may have heard of the $5 footlong at Subway. That was actually an employee idea from a very tenacious employee who didn't have a feedback portal, but found a way through for that. And it's been such a major success for that company, Subway. We want to capture these anytime we can so we don't miss out on them. So let's talk about continuous response in practice. I'd like to review four examples actually of customers that have implemented this and how that's been for them. So the first is a retail company. They decided to run an employee micropulse. And let me mention that a micropulse is a super short survey. We're talking about 3 questions. The employee is able to answer a question or two and then get right to what's important to them. This retail company chose to give employees the option of using video. So they could use their cell phone or their computer to record a video of themselves providing the feedback. And what we find is that companies who allow their employees to do this, employees tend to provide really positive feedback when they use a video. They're usually thanking executives or recognizing colleagues, or they're, recognizing colleagues, or they are suggesting an idea and want to be seen for it. So they actually want to be on video. Then when they have something more constructive to say, they tend to type that out. Employees had both options. And what we found is when the employees left video feedback, the company had recently rolled out some changes in their diversity and inclusion policy, and employees used this opportunity to thank executives. They were even saying to the CEO, "Mary, I want you to see my face when I thank you for what a difference you made in my life. This is the first company I've ever worked at where I really felt welcomed and accepted for who I was." The videos were incredibly moving, and they were able to share them across the whole organization to see the impact of the diversity and inclusion policies. Another example is a financial institution using crowdsourcing to get employee ideas. So in crowdsourcing, employees are able to submit ideas about a particular topic that they want to solve. So what this company was doing was finding customer issues and then putting them in crowdsourcing so that employees knowledgeable about the issue could suggest ideas on how to solve it. It created an environment of collaboration where employees are able to submit ideas, upvote each other's ideas. So it gave immediate feedback to employees that either their idea was good and popular and others were adding on and upvoting it, or actually their idea wasn't just right for that situation, so it wasn't upvoted. So it didn't go into a black hole where they didn't know what was happening. They got immediate feedback and they got to be part of a community in creating ideas. And these ideas were used to improve both the employee and customer experience. Another example is a major US bank where they were running an always-on employee survey. This really created two-way communication between the employees working in the branches, the bankers and the tellers, and the senior executive team. And what they were able to do with the employee always-on running is they were able to get feedback and ideas from employees at all times. And employees use this as an opportunity to write in and really say when something changed, a new advertising promotion had gone out that was confusing. Employees wrote in right away and was able to tell the marketing team that this was confusing. And since it was only digital, they were able to change it over the weekend and by Monday, have it be less confusing and work better for both employees and customers. Employees actually had some feedback about music that they were writing in about. Now, who would have thought that employees in a bank would be talking about music? But when you look into their comments, you're able to see that employees were writing in about music because they were hearing from customers that they no longer felt their financial conversations were private. Music had been removed from the branches as a cost-cutting measure. So once senior executives heard this, they were able for a low cost to bring back the music, improving both the customer and the employee experience. But they didn't have to know in advance to ask for that. Employees were raising that on their own. And then finally, another global financial institution was leveraging AI. The CEO had held a town hall meeting and they had run a survey and they had over 30,000 comments. And the HR analytics team could not get through them to find suggestions for improvement. It's been a really positive town hall and most comments were favorable, but the CEO in particular wanted to hear where he could improve. Using an AI, we're able to, within minutes, find all of the suggestions employees had on how to improve that town hall. We've gone through a number of examples of how connecting and engaging with employees in real time can provide immediate feedback and ideas and be able to take quick action. Now, sometimes we hear obstacles to this, so I'd like to review some of them that are common. One is the belief that employees will suffer from survey fatigue. So as you may have heard, employees aren't tired of being asked how they're doing. They're tired of being asked how they're doing and no action is being taken. So what we advocate is quick action. Employees are able to provide feedback in the survey in real time that goes to managers, and together employees and managers solve problems in real time. The purpose of the survey isn't an analytical exercise or something theoretical. It's about being able to raise issues and problem solve together. Another is the belief that we can't take action fast enough. Well, if we try to follow those big processes we create for the annual engagement survey, where it's months of analysis and planning before we do something, you can't take action fast enough. But if instead we integrate the feedback and the idea of taking the survey and acting on it into our everyday business routines, we can act on it fast, just as we do with other things that we do every day. Teams to come together and solve problems about processes and anything that happens during the workday. Employee experience should be no different. If a team has a weekly huddle, employee experience should be one of the topics where they're looking at what employees are saying and working to solve problems together. Some people worry that employees will respond more than once. If we have something available to them all the time, will they respond over and over again? Some will, because they have something to say. We want to think about this differently than we thought about the annual engagement survey, where we're trying to get everyone to respond once and get a high response rate. This is really about getting a sense of what's happening. If a good number of employees are commenting about something, it's likely an issue for other employees. Let's use this as a way to test and learn. Let's understand where employees are talking about something and then come together and talk about it. Let's use it as a way to start the conversation, not to start an analysis. And finally, a worry that managers won't have time. How can managers not have time for this? Every day, managers are making decisions about the employee experience, but they're doing it without data. They're doing it with anecdotal stories they're hearing from employees or from the employee who complains the loudest. They're busy and they have so many things to do. This gives managers data so that they can make good informed decisions about the employee experience instead of chasing after what seems to be anecdotally the most important thing. So as we wrap up, I just want to offer a challenge to you today. What belief do you have about your current listening strategy that you could rethink today? Could it be that we don't need a 90% response rate and that just when we get a good number of employees, like 20 or 25%, that's enough information for us to start investigating and start having a conversation with our employees about how to improve? I challenge you to think of where you can rethink it. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate your attention. Bye-bye.